about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. Well, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one thing Trump is doing is if there's a question about why do we do this or what's going on or why isn't this fixed, he seems to be addressing it. And a big question most of us have had is how do we have astronauts stranded? And why can't we bring them back? And Trump is demanding that those two astronauts that are stranded, Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore, on a space station, they've been there at least 250 days, I believe. Why aren't they home yet? And so there is going to be a new rescue mission. And it looks like they might be able to get home 2 weeks sooner than the original April return. Daily Mail is reporting that Williams and Wilmore have been stuck on the International Space Station since June of 2024. They have been 8 months on this orbiting laboratory. And apparently there's been issues that have prevented them from coming home when their stay was only supposed to be 8 days. This plan should allow spacecraft that will bring them home earlier than scheduled. Now, Donald Trump told Elon Musk to go get them. And Musk, I guess, has been offering, SpaceX, and I'm not really sure all the details of this. But NASA sources told Ars Technica that there's a contingency plan that was set into motion before Trump took office and now has been recently greenlit. Look, I don't care who gets credit. Biden, Trump, just bring these people home. Back on June 5th, two NASA astronauts flew to the International Space Station. They were supposed to be there for 8 days, but their spacecraft, Boeing Starliner, had technical issues, both during and after the launch. So NASA had to delay their return. Now, I don't know how they've had food and everything they need. Is it that the space station is equipped for disasters that could last longer than a year? I don't know. But they don't look healthy. And that kind of happens when you're in non-gravity. And, humans are not designed to be in space, especially for long periods of time. And the Starliner, Boeing Starliner, was deemed unfit to carry them home. So it was safer for them to stay on the International Space Station. The spacecraft returned to Earth, but didn't have them in September. So the astronauts are waiting. They've been waiting to come aboard the Crew 9 spacecraft, which arrived at the ISS later that same month. But they say Crew 9 spacecraft cannot bring the Starliner and Crew 9 astronauts back to Earth until SpaceX's Crew 10 mission arrives at the International Space Station, because NASA protocol necessitates what's known as a handover period, in which a departing international space crew overlaps with an incoming crew to share information with them and ensure a smooth transition between the two teams. Okay, I get how that's nice, but this is life or death. I don't know how much longer these two can live, in this space station. They don't look well. So, maybe just this once, do we have to do a handover period? They say the SpaceX Crew 10 mission was initially scheduled to launch in February, but a technical issue with the New Dragon capsule SpaceX intended to use, prompted NASA to push it back. And so now the date got pushed all the way to April. And you know what? Williams and Wilmore have been just amazing throughout all this. They have shown smiles. Apparently, there might have been Christmas decorations already there, so they celebrated Christmas, and they showed everybody they were happy, but they have got to be in hell, and they need to come home. So Trump is demanding this gets done, and no more delays. And so SpaceX and NASA are currently working to resolve a technical issue with the C-213 Dragon. They say it may be related to batteries on the spacecraft. As a result, NASA decided that C-213 would not be ready to launch. So if NASA waited for it to be ready for launch, they would start to approach red lines on food, water, and other supplies, meaning they would be starting to run out. So we need to get them back as soon as possible. And I know Elon Musk said he could do this, but we need to make sure this is done safely. And I know everybody wants to help, but we have to make sure, one, that the spacecraft could get there and that the spacecraft could bring them home. We've seen disasters in space, and we don't want this to happen. Already, this is a disaster that they're stuck there, but we want to make sure they could come back safely. So now, NASA and SpaceX have reportedly decided to replace C-213 with the 210 vehicle, which was used for the Crew 7 mission that returned to Earth in March 2024. Known as Endurance, the spacecraft will now be used to launch the Crew 10 mission no earlier than March 12th. If Crew 10 launches on time, hopefully they could be back to Earth by March 19. So this is huge, and this is closer than we've gotten, but I'm sorry, I'm not going to be happy until they come home. And, these delays, in order for our spacecraft to do what it needs to, there has to be weather perfect, no asteroids. Remember, we had some flybys with asteroids a few days ago and things like that. And there's these are things that they have to take into account. Not to mention, not only do you have to be able to get out of the Earth's atmosphere at the perfect window, you need to be able to come back in a perfect window. So I get it's difficult. And I know most of my knowledge is based on movies and whatever science I learned in school, but the science is beyond what a lot of us can educate ourselves on. And I understand why there's delays, but I don't understand why it's taking this long. And how we could have trusted something that would have technical issues so easily. And, maybe we do need to slow a little down with our space exploration. This is an example of something where we think we're ready, we think we have the technology, and we don't. So hopefully Williams and Wilmer can get back safely. We'll keep you posted. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hot Shot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. So yesterday, Trump signed the executive order, No Men in Women's Sports. It has fulfilled one of his major campaign promises, keeping biological men out of the locker rooms and in girls' sports so girls could compete with other biological females. He signed this executive order on National Girls and Women's and Sports Day. Celebrates female athletes in women's sports and those who are committed to providing equal access to sports for all females. And he was surrounded by women and little girls, and they were in their uniforms, their sport uniforms. It was an amazing sight. And you know, it's interesting because you don't really see that side of Trump where he's talking to little kids and he's surrounded by these little kids and he's signing the order. He goes, well, now I need to make this a 10. I need to do this right. And you see, yeah, I love it. I have a lot of friends now who are starting to become grandpas. And seeing them around little kids, it's kind of fun to see. And I have to admit, I was smiling, you know, not only to see these girls, you know, breathe a sigh of relief that, you know, they don't have to, you know, compete with a biological male, but also, you know, seeing them be able to kind of, you know, gather around the president and be a part of this. It was a nice sight to see. Now, mind you, you know, I have relatives in my distant family that are transgender, LGBTQAI plus community members, and this is not against them. You know, it's very interesting because my transgender patients, family members, friends, those who are LGBTQAI plus, many of them didn't ask for there to be biological males in female sports. You know, and the messaging and the narrative got kind of hijacked where it has to be all or nothing. And there are many members who in that community who are like, look, you know, I want to be able to marry who I want to be able to marry. I want to not be made fun of. I don't want to be stereotyped. I want to be able to have access to work, access to jobs, but I'm not necessarily asking for, you know, a lot, and also a lot of members who are, let's say, considered men who have sex with men or women have sex with women. They love being women and men if that's who they are. They're like, you know, people assume if I'm gay, I want to be a girl. No, I don't want to be a girl. Or if I'm lesbian, I want to be a man. Many of them love their body parts and love who they are. So it's you know, when people say, oh my gosh, you know, Trump is anti the LGBTQAI plus community. No, he's hired individuals in his cabinet who are of that community. This has to do with he's pro girls and women in sports. But I understand how the media is going to take this into, well, you know, he's trying to hurt transgenderism. Transgenderism, an adult who wants to identify as male or female, that is a completely different subject than somebody like Leah Thomas, who failed in meddling in male sports and then decided to run as and compete as a female. These are different topics, but the media wants to all put them in one topic. And you know what's very confusing for educators, such as myself, who worked for a university, is Title IX. So we had to have extensive Title IX training, and Title IX training. This was before the whole, you know, locker room issue and biological men and women's sports. Title IX ensured that individuals were not sexually harassed, assaulted, had the privacy they needed, couldn't do dirty jokes, couldn't come out of the bathroom zipper down, you know, showing your body parts going, oops, sorry. There had to be decorum, and people had to feel safe on school campuses. And it was a violation if, you know, you made a dirty joke, or if you showed another coworker your body part when they didn't want to see it, or you invaded their private space. Those were Title IX violations. Then all of a sudden, Title IX changed. In the Biden administration, it was a Title IX violation if a biological man couldn't go into a female bathroom. And school administrators are like, well, wait a second. If a parent says he doesn't want his little girl in the bathroom with a 15-year-old boy, biological male, what's Title IX and what isn't? And Title IX then changed. Well, apparently Title IX is still Title IX. And from what we are hearing, that there are now lawsuits against SJSU, UPenn for potential Title IX violations because of what's been happening in locker rooms, et cetera. And mind you, my true transgender patients were absolute angels. I don't think they had any plan on disrupting, somebody's sport or privacy or, but how do you find the fakers? If you could identify as anybody you want to, then how do you know if somebody's faking or not? I was in a bathroom at a hotel in Lake Tahoe for a conference. This was, I believe, last year. And I come out of the bathroom, and it was kind of later night, and my friend was standing outside. My guy friend was standing outside, one of my colleagues, because he would just do that to make sure I was safe and wait for me. And because he can't go into the women's bathroom. And I come out of the bathroom, and there's like a 6'2", maybe 6'4" man in a dress, hairy legs, standing there by the sink. Now, my father taught me, I have a lot of confidence, if God forbid, I did have to, be attacked. But I remember I just kind of, was a little surprised and shocked. But I just went about my thing going, well, he might be transgender or he might be a transvestite. But if he's in the female bathroom, then he might be transgender. And luckily, he was bigger than me and hairier than me. Washed his hands. And I know somebody's like, well, that's hard to do. Yeah, he had more hair than me, but washed his hands and he left. And, if God forbid there was a man who was pretending, and I could have been in trouble. And my friend was outside. I could have yelled, but if they prevented me from yelling, that could have been a problem. And so, luckily this person wasn't faking it. He really wanted to be in the female bathroom because he identified as a woman. But you see why people are a little nervous. So the Department of Office of Civil Rights is investigating San Jose State University, University of Pennsylvania, Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association for separate incidents involving trans athletes competing on a women's or girls' sports team. Now, I understand the executive order went out yesterday, but we are being told that there have been some Title IX violations. Now, I don't know if that was since the executive order, since yesterday, or if there were issues that did violate Title IX while the Biden administration was going on. And so with UPenn, they bring up Leah Thomas, the transgender swimmer, was competing on the women's swim team. He competed at first on the men's team, then identified as a she. She went on to break multiple women's records, winning several events at the 2022 Ivy League Championships. Former UPenn swimmer Paula Scanlon had to share a locker with Leah Thomas. And that is something that, from what I understand, Title IX issues we're supposed to protect against. And mind you, I think what's going to end up being the resolution, if administrations go back and forth saying biological males can be in girls' locker rooms and they can't, is the single-use bathroom or the single-use shower. I think schools are going to have to eventually do that. Because the executive order, what Trump is doing now, might not stick. And a new president might say, I am going to allow transgender individuals to compete and, be in women's sports. And then now we have the shower issue again and the locker and the changing. And, there was that Virginia father whose daughter was attacked in a bathroom by somebody who was faking it. And that's and like I said, a true transgender individual, they're kind-hearted, and that's not what who we fear. We fear the fakers. And once it became a free-for-all, Now, I told you I was at an American Cancer Society event where there was a fundraiser at a bar, and I was looking for the bathroom, and there was a security guard stand there. I go, where are the bathrooms? And he goes, right here. And there were a bunch of single-use doors and rooms with him standing there. And I think that would probably be where we start to see things go to ensure people's privacy. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So, yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So Diana writes, and it's a good email. It's a little long, so I'm going to paraphrase and summarize it. Apparently, she was watching some of the protests. I guess now Democrats want to impeach Trump, and they don't like what Elon Musk is doing, and the question she had is, she's been watching what Trump has done, and she loves everything he's done. She says, everything he's brought up makes sense, and, loves what he's doing. And how are we so divided? How are there individuals hating what Trump is doing? Or why are they so unhappy? And how can we have human beings who live in the same country so opposite on things like this? And this is something we talked about with the, kind of leading up to the election, where, because I like to talk a lot about psychology. We get a lot of questions that kind of have to do with that. And so I love talking about that. That's, to the ability I can. I understand I'm not a psychologist, but in medical school, we get a lot of psychology and that kind of training. But we saw leading up to, when we saw the campaign speeches with Kamala Harris versus Trump, at first, there were very few people at Kamala Harris's campaign. There were very few people at Biden's campaign. So I guess speeches and events. So it wasn't a big question. And then all of a sudden, people got bussed in, and many people who were anti-Trump were like, no, we're going to support Kamala. We could get behind her. We can make this work. And when you were seeing such a big divide, it did make you feel uneasy, because as an American, I like to think we're all American, and we all want the same thing. We all want national security. We all want good schools. We all want good infrastructure. We all want good health. We all want fair leaders. We all want fair elections. You would think these would be no-brainers. And here we now, in the last couple of weeks, have seen Trump, do some things where, a good number of Americans, the majority, I think, because of how he got voted in, love what he's doing. Yet millions of Americans, according to the polls or according to the election, don't. And so how are we not on the same page? And as I said, like with the abortion issue, it should be pretty bipartisan to look at the numbers of abortions and go, maybe we need to rethink how we're assisting these young women in having access to birth control. Because I don't think anybody on both sides of the aisle want to see 1 million abortions being done a year. I don't think the average American does not look at an abortion as loss of a fetal life. I don't think the average American wants government to tell a woman what to do with her body. So when Roe v. Wade got overturned, the same question was posed to me by people going, wait a second, Roe v. Wade says the government has to stay out. Why aren't people in agreement with that? And so it depends on the person, and it depends on, you would think the Roe v. Wade overturn actually helped the pro-choice movement because it said the feds have to stay out of it. They can't ban abortion. The Constitution doesn't say they can do it, and they also can't honor it because there's just nothing in the Constitution talking about fetal life, protecting fetal life, and women. It just wasn't that common an issue such that it had to be in the Constitution. Nobody would have dreamed that it would be since the numbers were started to accrue and that we would be at 1 million a year. Some years 800,000, some 700,000, some 1.2 million, but on average 1 million a year. So I like going for bipartisan. I like going for, what makes the most sense. So it makes the most sense that if we have Trinidad and Nicaragua and we have Venezuelan gangs or we have other gangs and criminals in this country that came here illegally to get them out. I don't understand why other people wouldn't be in agreement with that. Now, where people start to disagree is how things are being done. Now, you saw ICE try to do their job. Apparently, ICE was supposed to be raiding that apartment complex where we saw Trinidad and Nicaragua, but my guess is Trinidad and Nicaragua, saw the writing on the wall and said, let's move. Okay, apparently our apartment is all over the news, so maybe find a new apartment. So I'm not shocked there, but apparently there were some ops that ICE was about to do that got leaked to the media. The media broadcasted it. And so when they went, they found some illegal immigrants, but and I don't know if they found criminals or not, but they didn't find the gang members. And then you saw people protesting, saying, get out of here. We don't want you to do that. And you're like, I thought everybody wants, do you really want to live near gangs? What's going on here? So my guess is when somebody hates a candidate, they let go of logic. Now, they might feel that part of it is good, but there could be overstep. Just like Elon Musk, there's a lot of Democrats who feel wasteful spending needs to stop, but they might not like the way Elon Musk is doing it. So they have to choose. Do we support it or do we not? See, I don't understand why you can't just give all sides. Why can't you just say, I like this, but I don't like that? Why can't taxpayers do that? Why can't people vote and say, look, I like this, but I don't like this? And why can't we frequently give our opinion? It's too hard. It costs too much money. There's fraud. There's people, there's got to be a better way to do things. But, you would think that some of the moves that Trump was making would be, for him to be voted in by a majority, it's because people wanted, young girls to not have to compete with boys or women to compete with boys. A biological males who identify as female. Or you would think that, people would want to have a better border and to not have our enemies come in wolves in sheep's clothing and sneak in. Everybody says, well, the Republicans or the conservatives are anti-immigrant. No, we're all descendants of immigrants. America is great because of us having immigrants. My father came as an immigrant, learned the language, studied for the exam, took the citizenship test, passed it, from what I understand, with flying colors, then marries my mom, then has me. I am very, very grateful that his family was able to get a visa, come to America, and do the proper path. But there's a path. What good is having a legal pathway when an illegal pathway is not enforced as illegal? And so, there's, I'm a little confused too. There's a lot of potential for Democrats and Republicans to agree on things. But the problem we're having is when it comes time to elections, when they campaign, it's sexier to say, we fought this evil. than to say we worked with the Republicans on these ideas because they were good. And so you are going to see that. These Democrats need to be reelected. Republicans need to be reelected. So Republicans are going to be able to campaign on, look at what we did. Look at what we did to strengthen the border. Look at what we did to get rid of gangs. Look at what we did to decrease criminals and try to protect our, innocent civilians and kids in parks who were getting raped and attacked by criminals, whether they were legal or illegal. That's what the Republicans are going to be able to campaign on. What are the Democrats going to be able to campaign on? Well, if their city is doing better under Trump, then they have to campaign on we worked with them. But if their constituents, if they think are very anti-Trump, then they're going to go that way and say, look, we need to fight. We need to get back into office. And so I think, we learned with this election that Americans aren't stupid. They're looking at their pocketbook. They're looking at what's happening. They're starting to see misinformation versus information. They're understanding that the media is biased. And, and I think a big part of it was the media saying, oh, yeah, Biden is fine. And they're like, really? People don't want to be lied to. 1-877-DOC-DALI.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So a Wisconsin couple is suing Walgreens and a pharmacy benefits management company because their son died. Now, was it a medication error? Was it an issue of poor prescribing? No, what happened is there was a $500 spike in price of his asthma medication. He couldn't afford it and ended up dying. Shannon and William Schmidkent of Poinet filed their lawsuit in federal court. This was in Milwaukee on January 21st, a year to the day that their son died at the age of 22. According to the lawsuit, Cole, their son, suffered from asthma all his life. He managed it with the daily inhaler and the medication Advair Discus and its generic equivalents. He stopped at a Walgreens pharmacy, allegedly, and this is being reported by Associated Press, in Appleton on January 10th, 2024, to refill his prescription. He was told that the cost had jumped from $66 to $539 out of pocket. He couldn't afford the new cost, left the pharmacy without the medication. He tried to manage his condition with his rescue inhaler, but suffered a fatal asthma attack days later, according to the lawsuit. The Schmidtnecks allege the pharmacy benefits management company OptumRx violated Wisconsin law by raising the cost of the medicine without a valid medical reason and failing to provide 30 days advance notice of drug price increases. If that's the case, that there might be a point there. Pharmacy benefits managers act as intermediaries between health insurance companies, prescription drug companies, and pharmacies. So look how ridiculous all these middlemen are. This is what we're paying for. It's ridiculous. Anyway, OptumRx services prescription claims have prescription claims for more than 66 million people across the United States. The lawsuit alleges that Walgreens pharmacy staffers failed to offer Cole any workarounds to obtain his usual medication. They told him there were no cheaper alternatives or generic medications available. They did not contact OptumRx to request an exception on Cole's behalf, and they didn't ask Cole's doctor to request an exception for him. So the lawsuit seeks unspecified damages. This is just, it's horrible to see what happened. So the family's attorney, Michael Trunk, said the conduct of both OptumRx and Walgreens was deplorable. The evidence in this case will show that both OptumRx and Walgreens put profits first. Now, from what we understand, OptumRx spokespeople did not immediately reply to the press. In a statement last April, they did extend sympathy to the family, and they said that a review of Cole's claims showed that on the day he visited the pharmacy, he did buy a different asthma medication, generic albuterol, for a $5 copay, a medication that he always obtained that he also obtained in October 2023. They said his case was handled consistent with industry practice and the patient's insurance plan design. So the lawyer said that the $5 generic prescription Cole filled was for his rescue inhaler, not the Advair Discus. That's what I thought. I thought that that's what was very expensive and what he needed. Now, he couldn't fill it because it became too expensive. Can you die if you don't get your long-term prescription? So rescue inhalers, basically how asthma works, is your lungs don't have the compliance that they need to, so air doesn't get in and out as easily. You could have air trapping. It's kind of like when you blow up a balloon and you keep blowing up a balloon, and rather than it snapping back, when you let the air out, after a used balloon is overblown, it's very boggy. That's how an asthmatic's lungs could be. So they feel short of breath. They could sadly not feel like they're getting enough breath. And if they don't get enough oxygen, and then they panic and they bronchoconstrict even more, and they start to become hypoxic, you could die. Asthma is a serious, serious condition. For asthmatics, I would test them. I would make asthmatics come in every 3 months to check them during each season. If we were coming into a bad season for them, I would make sure their medicine was increased if they needed to. I would make sure they were also managed by an asthma specialist. And I didn't mess around with asthma. I never wanted somebody with asthma dying on my watch. But it was a big process. And when somebody dies of asthma, there's a lot of finger pointing as to what could have gone wrong. But what is paramount for anybody with asthma is having access to their medication. Advair is a long-acting bronchodilator as well as a steroid. So the Advair Discus, what that does is it decreases inflammation in the lungs, and it allows your airway to have longer control, as opposed to your rescue inhaler, which very quickly bronchodilates and is used more for as needed. If somebody doesn't have the rescue inhaler, they could die. If somebody doesn't have proper asthma treatment, they could die. Now, being that he went to the pharmacy January 10th but died 11 days later, there is a medical case that to say that if he did not have his preventative medication, that made him more weak. But this could open up a whole new slew of litigation if prices of drugs go up, which they do, and people can't get their drugs. Let's say somebody has a heart attack and they blame the pharmacy because they couldn't get their Ozempic. And studies have shown that Ozempic and weight loss can help the heart. I mean, we could have a pharmacy will be like, you know what, I'm done. I can't, I can't control everybody's health outcome. But where the questions are lined is, why did it jump from $66 to $513? Why the jump? Is it that his insurance didn't cover it? There are options that could be done, but that's up to the doctor. I'm not saying this to defend the pharmacy, but if a doctor writes a specific medication, the pharmacy has to fill that medication. If there's a generic form of that same medication, they are required by law to change it to that. But a pharmacy does not necessarily have to stop and go, okay, wait a second. If there's no alternative, what you might need to do is split these medications up where you have an inhaled steroid, and then you have a long-acting beta agonist, and then you would have to do this and that. The pharmacy can't do that. They could suggest it to the doctor, but the doctor has to do that. So there's still a lot of questions. I'm not saying this is 100% cut and dry in terms of the fault of the, I know we do not like what happens with insurances and their lack of pain, but if you're a patient, I don't want you undergoing the same tragedy as Cole did. And the one thing we can be sure of is your medications are going to have less and less coverage. Now that these insurance companies have to pay for Ozempic and Wegovy and expensive medications, they are going to try to cut costs. Medications are expensive. I cannot believe that Advair came out in the early 2000s, I think, or was it the 90s? Advair, I think, came out in the 90s. Really? $513? It hasn't gone down in price? Are you kidding me? So we have a problem. Our drug prices are too expensive. And if somebody can't afford their medication, they don't have a lot of avenues. Now, how it used to be is your doctor would be notified. If your doctor has to make a change and have you come in, the doctor might have samples to get you through. And there was a process. But if people aren't going to the doctor, if people don't have a doctor anymore, if this is all being done online, if there's nobody to answer the call, if the pharmacy calls the doctor, I don't know. Now, they're saying there wasn't any attempt made. So if you at all have a life-needing medication, don't let yourself get caught in this bureaucratic mess. Make sure you talk to your doctor about options, because if a pharmacy can't fill the prescription to your financial liking, you're going to have to get it switched to something and have a plan B. 1-877 Doc Daliah, don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.